Would you like to know how to make not only zucchini bread, but zucchini gingerbread? Gingerbread is one of my favorite holiday foods ever, and now combining it with the abundance of summer, best combination ever. Spray my pans because then the parchment paper sticks to it. I leave quite a bit that hangs over on the sides because it will be very helpful when it comes out of the oven, so you can use each side that hangs over to lift out the bread. I'm adding 1 cup of packed brown sugar to my bowl. Then I'm going to place it on a scale so I can weigh my next liquid ingredients. A 1/4 cup of molasses is 2 ounces, and then another 1/4 cup of canola oil is another 2 ounces. Pouring them directly into a bowl without getting any dishes dirty is why I use a kitchen scale. 3/4 cup of plain Greek yogurt is 6 ounces. I don't sweat it if I go just barely over. A teaspoon of vanilla is 5 grams. I definitely do not want eggshells into my recipes, so I always break my eggs into a separate bowl to make sure that no pesky eggshells got in there before dumping them into my main bowl. This is all the wet ingredients, so now it's time to give it a really good stir and make sure all these ingredients are well incorporated. As a rule, I would recommend mixing all your dry ingredients together separately before adding them in with your wet. 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon directly into the wet. Ground ginger is 1 teaspoon. Next up is nutmeg and cloves, and I used 1/2 teaspoon of each of those. My last spice was 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom. Pro tip with baking soda, if you don't want any lumps, dump it into your hand first and then smash it into the bowl just like you see me doing. This is 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Add 1/2 teaspoon each of baking powder and salt before stirring again. Now it's time to add zucchini, and I shredded my zucchini and I'm adding 3 cups. Which for me was about 1 large zucchini. After you feel like you have mixed all these wet ingredients together pretty well, add in 3 cups of all-purpose flour and then mix again. You don't want tough zucchini gingerbread though, so be careful not to overmix your flour just until it's incorporated so you don't overdevelop the gluten. Divide the batter evenly between the 2 prepared pans that were lined with parchment paper. Preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the oven was preheated, I put the loaf pans into the very middle rack, and then I baked them for about 60 minutes. Once the toothpick came out clean, and it had been 60 minutes, I let them rest on the top of my stove for just a few minutes before I pulled them out of their loaf pans and let them continue to completely cool down on a cooling rack. I was way too impatient to wait though, and so I cut into the loaves even when they were still cooling because they smelled so good. Just look at the way that the crumb is, and you can tell that they are so moist. If you like zucchini bread or gingerbread, please feel free to screenshot this recipe and Swish's making your own. Thank you so much for watching, and happy baking!